The voice in your head is Outback Jack, talking to you directly from inyourheadonline.com. If you're not listening, your mother still dresses you.
All right, we are back, and we're joined by Outback Jack. Welcome to In Your Head.
G'day, g'day, g'day. How are you?
How you doing?
Good, good. If I was any better, I'd rust.
We were actually talking earlier in the show, somebody in our chat room had mentioned that TNA was, it actually got bigger ratings than WWE in Australia.
I wouldn't have the faintest idea. I mean, I didn't even have a television in Australia. We'd go once a week to the Humpty Doo pub to watch the satellite telly, so, I wouldn't have the faintest idea.
Oh, okay. Is that a real place, Humpty Doo?
Oh, totally. It's,
okay.
From Darwin, you head about 28 miles south, because you can only go basically south, to Catherine, and the turnoff is about at mile marker 28, and then you head east towards, let me think, what is it, good grief, Kundawindi, and there's a national park there, and Humpty Doo's about 20 miles further in from there.
Oh, okay.
Population of 40, and on Saturday the pub has a population of 200.
Were you really from there, or did you pick that because you liked the name?
No, I was from there. I mean, that's where I sort of I landed after picking up the swag and wandering around for a little while.
Mm-hmm. Well, we got a caller here. We've had a lot of people calling in. Sorry I didn't take your guys' phone calls. You guys can call in now, but let's get to this guy. We got Brian Jones on the line.
Oh, hello. Hi.
Hey, Brian, how are you, mate?
Good. I had a question for you. I know that you were in the WWF in the mid-'80s. I was wondering, were you there at the time that whole fight went down between Jacques Rougeau and
the Dynamite Kid? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. Were you there at the time? I didn't know if you had an opinion on who started it or what exactly happened, just basically what you thought of the whole thing.
Yeah, there's no question that the Dynamite Kid asked for it, and he got what he deserved. I mean, simple as that.
For anybody who doesn't know, the story was, I think Rougeau hit him with either brass knuckles or like a roll of coins and knocked out a couple of his teeth.
Definitely not brass knuckles. Yes, maybe there were some quarters involved, but I mean, they've been at one another for years, and he decided to clock him, and Dynamite Kid asked for it and got what he deserved.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. I heard so much about it. I wanted the opinion of somebody who was there at the time to see what you thought of it. But I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Thank you.
No worries, Brian.
Thanks for calling in, Brian. Now, I've read the Dynamite Kid's book, and he had some stories about you. And I think there was, people told stories before that he played some pretty bad ribs on you. Did you have any problems with it?
That's true.
With the Bulldogs?
At the end of my time there, he wasn't my best friend, that's for sure.
Right.
And yes, he was pretty notorious for pulling ribs, and he would do all sorts of funny stuff with stuff in your beers, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
He thought that was hilarious.
You think there's a difference between just playing like a harmless rib that can be a joke and doing something that's like harmful to somebody? Yeah,
look, you can play all. I mean, everybody likes to goof off and play ribs. Yeah, I mean, just fun stuff for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what if you give an example, but to put some sort of some additive into someone's drink to see if they go crazy and to do dumbass things and put them in a position of danger. That's insanity.
Yeah, that's not. Now, before you came to WWF, how long were you wrestling for?
Oh, I wasn't. I was in the Humpty Doo pub, and they came in and we hooked up that way. And I went up to Canada to Stu Hart's for about 3 months, if my memory serves, and learned the business there and trained there, and learned under the man of 1,000 holes, Les Thornton. And when my training was done, I came down, and I think my first match was Madison Square Garden.
Wow, that's a pretty big thing to do first. Now, did they? So they just were looking for somebody to fit the Outback Jack part.
I guess it seemed a good thing to do at the time. They were doing a tour of Australia, and I showed them what it was like to see what a cattle station was like, and what an Australian pub was like, and a bush pub, and Arnold Scollin was the agent in charge, and he said, "Kid, you're great. We'll bring you back to the States." And I said, "Yeah, sure, whatever." And about 6 weeks after they left, there was a letter addressed to the Humpty Doo pub for me from the WWF, and there was a thank you note and some other nice little gratuities in there, and a contract to come over.
Wow. Did you ever think of being a wrestler before that happened?
No, not really. I was actually more sort of getting away from life actually at the time when I was in Humpty Doo. So it hadn't dawned, but a change is as good as a holiday. So I went signed on the dotted line, cashed the check, and landed in Manhattan.
Now, did they have to what they say smarten you up? Did you know what wrestling was, or did you think it was like?
We watched. We knew it was.
Entertainment.
It had its moments of entertainment for sure.
Right.
Yes, and I got sorted out. First, somebody tried to stretch me up in Canada, which was whatever, that was fine. But then once you paid your dues, you got into it, and there was no secrets after that, as it were.
Mm-hmm. Did Stu ever take you down to the dungeon?
I refused to go. I just thought that was just nuts. You went out to the farm for sure. And when you train someone again, yes, you can charm all the stuff, but there was a degree of brutality to put for want of a better term, the plebes through, and I didn't agree with that. There was no need to do some of the cruel things. And it's not because I'm some sort of pussy or anything like that, but it's just, there's no point in doing that.
Mm-hmm. Some people consider Stu. What are your thoughts on Stu Hart?
Well, Stu Hart was a great wrestler and a good old fella. There's no question about that. And certainly a legend in the business, without a doubt. And it's like everybody. Everybody gets older and still wishes they were youthful and could do what they did when they were 30 when they're 60. And,
right.
I just had my 50th birthday yesterday. Not yesterday, back in February, and I was like, Jesus, I'm 50 years old. I remember when I could. Oh my word, my back's aching from. You have trouble bending over to tie your shoes up. I was like, I wish I was when I was.
Right.
Right. And everybody goes through that.
What date in February? Because my birthday's in February.
Well, it's a bit of a national secret, mate.
Oh, okay.
February 4th. Actually, there's no real secret. It's Nostradamus said on February 4th, 2000, the world was coming to an end. So at this point, because everybody survived on my birthday, the world's going to last till I say it's going to end.
Did anyone warn you about going down to Stu's basement, not to do it, or you just kind of figured?
Oh yeah. Les Thornton said, don't go down the basement. He'll try and stretch you. And that's not like at the time he was only great. And yes, he was a great wrestler and knew all his holds and could do all his stuff, sure. But he would let me show you what an armbar is, and he'd snap it on you, and then bend it up around the back of your head and try and pull your left shoulder out your right armpit.
Right.
But because he'd ask you to, and you'd give it to him, like, yeah, sure, yes, master. And next thing you know, you're twisted like a bloody fresh pretzel.
We got another caller here. We got is it Zhao? How do you say your first name?
It's João. That's how you say it.
All right. He's calling from Portugal.
Yes. It's we have two Americans, one Australian, and one Portuguese person. So it's kind of an international show.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Where you from, João?
I'm from the north of Portugal. I'm from Portugal. Yes.
Oh, fabulous! I mean, what's the seaport there? Lisbon, and you got to go through Lisbon to get to Casablanca, right?
It's in Morocco, so I would have to travel a couple of miles to get there. It's because I live in the north of Portugal. It's in the south of Portugal. It's kind of closer to Morocco, but Casablanca is still far away from where I live.
Oh, there you go. So, what's your question there, champ?
I have two questions. My first is, when you joined the WWF at the time, which persons would you say were the persons that helped you the most, and which were the persons that were more of try to screw you, try to pull your leg, try to try to sabotage, even if they tried to sabotage at some extent. Which were the good people? And
there were quite a number of people that were very, very helpful. One fellow that was very, very helpful, and it was a pretty close friend, was Hillbilly Jim, and a couple of others there that were very helpful. Hulk was very helpful, and of course, Junkyard Dog was especially helpful to me. And good people. As far as people being sort of mean and nasty, of course, Bobby Heenan sort of led the way a little bit, and he was a bit of a pain in the neck, and half of his people. I mean, I got on pretty well with King Kong Bundy, but he had his moments,
Mm-hmm. Well,
Did that help you with your question?
Yeah, you got help from people that really know the business, and when you associate yourself with that kind of people, you really can do a lot of things. The second question, I don't know because you're not living in Australia. I think Jack said that you're not living in Australia anymore.
I live in Fort Lauderdale.
Mm-hmm. My question was, probably don't know, but do you know how is the state of Australian pro wrestling? Do you know if what is going on down there?
I don't know. I was actually watching some of the financial shows the other day, and Linda McMahon came on because the WWE reported their earnings, and they took a 7% hit in their share price because their earnings weren't. They were okay, but there was a couple of questions the public wanted to ask, and she said they had just opened up an office in Sydney and a couple of offices in Hong Kong, and not Hong Kong, in Beijing, and some other places in the world. So, that's the last I've sort of, as far as any sort of stuff going on in Australia. There was a small time circuit when I lived there, but as far as any other professional circuit going on now, I don't think so. I mean, there probably is something local, but it's nowhere near the caliber of the WWE.
Yeah, because back in the 90s there was a lot of, you see a lot of guys in WCW and WWF coming from Australia and build, not all of the times they were from Australia, but they were built from Australia and New Zealand, so, I would expect that.
There is talent, there's no question about that. And the WCW at the time, I mean, certainly was looking for talent, there's no question about that, because they were in a fairly stiff competition with the WWF, and which obviously ultimately lost. And, so it was talent is primarily used to draw crowds, So if you can make it as far away and as exotic as you can, it'll get people's interest.
Mm-hmm. Okay, then. Thank you for answering my questions. Thank you, Jack, for having me.
Yep, thank you.
No trouble at all. Easy as pie, mate.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Someone actually brought up in the chat room when you talked about Hillbilly Jim that they heard that you and him were in line to be tag champions at some point.
Yes, that is true. Yes, we were to be tag champions at one point, but obviously the all good plans of mice and men sometimes fall apart.
Mm-hmm. Now, did you guys ever tag? Because I don't really remember you guys.
Yeah, we tagged several times.
Yeah,
several times. Yeah. And he was great to work with. There's no doubt. I mean, he and I together, we really got the crowd popping. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Do you think you were over with the crowd? Because I remember at the time people were really into you.
Oh yeah, I think I was. And it was good to be a babyface. There's no question about that.
Yeah. Would you ever like to have a heel run, or would you have to have been in wrestling long to think about something like that?
It certainly would hone your skills, because the brighter fellas and the better wrestlers are always at some point a heel, right? I mean, in the dynamic of a match, the heel controls the match, yes?
Right.
And he gets the heat up on the babyface, and then the babyface takes it away. I mean, that's not any sort of secret. That's just the dynamics of a match. So the better wrestler, being the heel, controls the match. So. Mm-hmm. Yes, it's obviously, from an education standpoint and the science of the business, a run as a heel would obviously be good. Right.
Now, did you have any problems with playing kind of the Australian stereotype, or that was just What you?
Well, that was me. There was no stereotypes, you know.
That was you. Everything we saw.
Yeah. Although I didn't always win a woman's heart because I had no teeth. That was a little bit of a
Right.
I like to have my teeth in sometimes, but you know, you have a fun time. You eat as much as you possibly can. You drink as much as you possibly can, and you have a blast.
Did they besides like the tag championship? Did they promise you anything when you went to WWE? The WWF?
No, not at all. You know, they obviously wanted to make me a mainstream talent, and they did their best, and you know, it worked for as long as it did, and you know, at some point it wasn't over anymore. That's as simple as that.
Did you enjoy like the vignettes? Because you know, people still talk about them. You can actually find them on YouTube.
Yeah, the vignettes were fun. The vignettes were a lot of fun. It would have been fun to do a few more. I tried to go back at one point. I remember Vince brought this fellow in called Skinner.
Right.
Or the Skinner or something like that. And I thought, you know, what a perfect foil to bring back Outback Jack and be the animal hero, you know, and but he didn't want to go for it, which you know, Vince is also not my favorite person. You know, he's not many people's favorite person for that matter.
Now, what kind of problems did you have with Vince?
They're things that I keep my feelings about that to myself.
Right. Was it just him as a person, or something he did like specifically to you?
No, they're things as I just said, I keep those things to myself.
All right. Now, I know Jesse Ventura used to call you Outhouse sometimes on commentary. Did you get along with Jesse? Did you think that was fun?
Yeah, Jesse was a good bloke. You know, I mean, we chatted from time to time, and you know, he certainly has a deplorable excess of personality. But you know, he's never mean or vindictive. You know, he was playing a role just like most everybody was.
Yeah. Did you have a question from the message board, Incher?
Yeah, actually I do. POD from our message board. He wants to know what Killer Kahn was like as a person.
Killer Kahn was a pretty good bloke. I mean, you know, he was okay to talk to. The biggest, laziest, heaviest lump of meat you have ever dealt with in your life. I mean, he just, oh my word. When he said he weighed 310 pounds, you can bet he weighed 400. Oh my word, he was just lazy and just gave you no help at all. But you know, there was no question he was professional because I worked with him a bunch. And he would do that move off the top rope when I'd missed my elbow off the top rope, and he would climb up to the top rope and drop his knee on my face. And I mean, you know, obviously I had confidence in him that he wouldn't miss and crush my head, you know.
Right.
So to work in that regard from the finish standpoint, yes, it was good. But other than that, he was lazy and weighed a ton.
Did anyone ever hurt you in the ring?
Yeah, everybody gets hurt. I mean, you miss something or you're tired. You know, I mean, you know, those days you work 7 days a week for 3 and 4 months straight, and sometimes when Vince thought things were hot, you'd do 2 shows on a Saturday and 2 shows on a Sunday. You'd be in a Learjet at 10 o'clock in the morning. You'd be flying to do a matinee show. Then as soon as the matinee show was done, you'd be in the bus and you'd be on another jet and you'd be off to another location. So you got very weary. So injuries happen primarily when you're just worn out, you know.
Right. But I mean, serious.
Nobody intentionally. Well, there was one bloke who intentionally tried to shoot, but we sorted that out in the ring.
Mm-hmm. Who is that, or you don't want to mention his name?
Steve Strong.
Okay, I remember the name.
Yeah, we had a match in the Montreal Forum, and he was classically known as a bit of a crowbar, and he thought it was a professional boxing match and tried to beat the crap out of me. And of course, I go back as good or better than I got, and I think we sorted ourselves out. And when we got back in the dressing room, we had a few subtleties for one another.
Mm-hmm. Now, you talked about like the travel and working 7 days a week. Was that something that was surprising to you that you maybe weren't ready for? Where you know, traveling so much and working almost every day.
No, you took care of yourself, or I certainly took care of myself. You know, you had some chemical help that made the traveling a little easier.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, if you're leading to the point of steroids, yeah, I took steroids, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you needed it to primarily help you recover from the nicks and bruises, But it certainly made you stronger and look better. There's no question about that too. And you did at some point, because you did get so tired and it was so brutal on the road. I mean, I know I personally, I would take pills to go to sleep. I'd take pills to wake up, and it's just the way it was.
Well, we've had some guests who have actually said they don't believe steroids are actually bad for you. It's just that if you abuse steroids, what are your opinions on them?
It's a tough thing. It depends what you want out of your body, and what If you're a normally 180-pound man and you're 5'9", and you want to get to be 300 pounds and bench press 6,000 pounds, and you're going to take steroids, you're going to overdose.
Right.
And they are addictive to the standpoint of you like the rush of feeling how strong you are. There's no doubt about that. But you've got to be halfway logical with what you're doing.
Right.
So
do you think it's because America's supposed to be a free country? Do you think it's right to tell people they can't take them?
I don't think in that regard. It's not a matter of freedom of choice. Yes, you have freedom of choice, but just because you have a choice doesn't mean you need to and must exercise it to show that you have freedom of choice.
Right.
There are America is a society of rules, and they're not there primarily to obstruct your freedom or obstruct the way you live. It's a lot of times, yes, it is anti-societal to do half the things that people do. I mean, you shouldn't abuse drugs, you shouldn't abuse cocaine or certain things. Do I personally believe that if you don't mind smoking a little bit of pot, legalize it, for goodness sake, or make it or decriminalize certain aspects of it.
Right.
Not because one of the things you do get from criminalizing everything, and I'll draw your attention back to the Roaring '20s. You had the Prohibition era, and the first thing that created was a new class of criminal, and half of America went to speakeasies and got their booze. Right.
Right.
So now you've criminalized marijuana, and I'll say this, because I am a conservative. I'm not a screeching liberal by any stretch, but you've created a situation where you create a price for it and a demand for it because you make it illegal. If you control it a little better, or relax some of the restrictions on it, you save some of the problems that go with it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, when did you decide to move to America? Was it after you worked for WWF?
When they sent me a letter and gave me a check.
I mean, you never thought about going back to Australia after that?
Oh, I've been back. I haven't been back for a bunch of years. There's nothing at home for me. There's no family, no mother, no father, no siblings. There's nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Along those things you were saying banned, I actually I think Vegemite's actually been banned in the United States.
Vegemite's fabulous. You want to cook yourself a nice beef stew, and you want to give it a nice little enhancer of taste. You take a tablespoon or a teaspoon, not a tablespoon, that'll kill you. A teaspoon of Vegemite and mix it in with your meat sauce.
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely makes your beef stew pop.
One of the people actually on our message board listening to the show, she sent me some Vegemite, and the first thing I did was I just took a big fingerful and ate it. And she scolded me, saying that's not how you eat Vegemite.
No. The easiest, simplest way is to get yourself a nice piece of freshly buttered toast, and take a small spread and just spread it on like you would do I guess a smear would be the appropriate word, but you don't put it on thick, you put it on light. Right. It gives you a nice beefy taste. It's distinctive. It's Vegemite.
Yeah, I definitely recommend not taking a big biteful like I did.
No. Look, I grew up on it, and no, I wouldn't put a tablespoon in and then lift the spoon. That's pretty intense.
Right. Somebody asked a question. Is Rovert, I think his name is. I'm not sure how you say his name. He wants to know how WWF got permission to use the Rolf Harris music for your entrance.
I think that's a state secret. I have no clue.
Maybe they don't know. Yeah.
They probably don't know. I would venture to say that Rolf Harris was quite pleased that Tommy Kangaroo Danceport was actually being played worldwide again.
Right. And that is not the Australian national anthem.
Oh, Tommy Kangaroo Danceport? No. Advanced Australia Fair is the current national anthem.
Right.
I know there was a contest at one point, and they wanted to make Waltzing Matilda as a national anthem, which is actually a very good song. But Advanced Australia Fair is stirring in its own right.
Mm-hmm. Did you have another question from the board, Incher?
Yes, actually I did. I believe you're going to like this next person's screen name. His name is Outback Jack is the Man. And he wants to know, have you ever been approached about a WWE Legends figure?
No, I hadn't. I had a doll for quite some time there that did very, very well.
Yeah.
As far as the Legends figure, no.
Did you keep any of your stuff, like your T-shirts or your the action figure you mentioned? I think it was LG.
I got a box of dolls somewhere tucked away in storage, and maybe one or two T-shirts. But
what advice? Yeah, I was just say what advice guys who collect them, they like to call them action figures, so it doesn't sound like they're playing with dolls.
Oh well, yeah. My son used to have a bath every night with the Outback Jack doll, and obviously Jack was the hero. He'd dive in and crush all the ships and all the enemy vessels and that, because Charlie used to love having bath time with a big old action figure.
Yeah. What was that like when you saw the action figure? It was what kind of feeling was that?
It was, it just had to make you smile and laugh. It was like, truth. I mean, that's pretty serious stuff,
Yeah, definitely.
The only thing I'd been on at that point was wanted posters, and now there's bloody millions and millions of dolls out there being snapped up right and left. It was startling.
Andy wants to know if it's true that you were the first guy that the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase put the $100 bill in the mouth of.
I think I actually was, and he wanted it back, and I said no.
If they're going to do that, you got to keep it.
Yeah. Now, talk about Ted DiBiase. He was a heel, but he was an absolute gentleman. Mm-hmm. Very nice fella, and never for 1 second would ever make you look bad.
Mm-hmm. When you work with somebody like a Ted DiBiase, did you really learn a lot from him?
Oh, sure. Again, he was a major heel, so he would control the match, and you worked out when you needed to get your high spots, and there was no doubt that he knew the science of the game and when to make things pop. Mm-hmm. So yes, you absolutely learn.
Well, what made you leave WWF?
I pressed on with a television show called This Is Adventure with Outback Jack, and I sunk a lot of my own money into that, and that's eventually why I left. Mm-hmm. I couldn't do both.
Right. So, and when you said you tried to make a comeback once with Vince, but did you ever try to go anywhere else, like to WCW or anything?
At the time, when I thought about that, I was still young enough to do it, and I was, in my own mind, pretty loyal to the WWF. Mm-hmm.
Well,
so, no, I didn't try to go anywhere else. No.
Right. Yeah. So you didn't want to pursue your wrestling career. What do you think about? I think there's a TV show now in Australia called Outback Jack. Are you familiar with that?
No, I'm not. I knew there was a TNT show about. It was called Outback Jack or something like that, and he tried to get into the pants of 20 women or something like that. It was quite startling. In the end, allegedly marries one of them at the end. Or so. It's one of those reality shows.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's a reality show. That's not based on you, then.
That's the only one I know of. I truly don't know of any other show. I mean, it'd be interesting to find out.
Yeah, if you just look it up, I think you can find it. I was looking up your name, and that popped up.
Huh. Interesting. Well, they owe me some royalties for using my name. There's only one and true Outback Jack, and that's moi.
Exactly. Now, do you own the rights to your name?
Of course.
Did WWE ever try to say they owned it?
No, we had a mutual agreement on that. We signed a very long-term contract, and that was one of the things that I left. Dick Glover was the head of the vice president of business, and we signed a very extensive contract so that they gave me the rights to Outback Jack.
Mm-hmm. Now, what do you think about the Bushwhackers? Because they used to be from I think they are.
They're still up in New Zealand. Yeah, they're good blokes. Wild and woolly. There's no question about that, and very, very good workers. Very good workers.
Mm-hmm.
I believe one of them's gone back to New Zealand, and they're both retired, as far as I know. I mean, I may be wrong there, but
yeah, I think one works in wrestling, but not as an active wrestler.
Right.
I think he's a booker. I think he was working in Puerto Rico.
No, I don't know. I don't bump into too many fellas.
Mm-hmm. After you left wrestling, did you just kind of leave it behind you, or did you still keep in contact with anybody?
I still keep in contact with a few fellas, but that's generally more social than anything, and certainly to catch up on some of the gossip. I mean, everybody's a bit of an old woman when it comes to that. Everybody likes to know what's going on. Yeah.
Right. I actually read that you did caber tossing for a while.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, I always competed in Scottish games and heavy events. I loved it. It's great.
Do you still do that, or?
No, mate. Like I said, for about the last 3 years, I've been blind in one eye and mostly blind in the other. So I got to feel my way wherever I go now.
What happened? How did you get the eye injury?
The right eye, which is the blind one, was from a helicopter crash a long time back. And the other blindness is directly related to diabetic retinopathy.
Oh, okay. Well, I hope you get some good news with your eyes. Is there anything they could do for him?
There's certainly great progress being made with stem cells, and I think that's truly the only way to go, unless somebody is generous enough to give me their eyes, and they can connect them in. But that's impossible. There's very definite progress being made with adult stem cells, and they could do clusters of injections of stem cells around the macula and regrow new retinal material, which eventually reacts to light, and lo and behold, you get to see again.
Mm-hmm. Van here in the chat room, he just wanted to know what you thought of the Outback Steakhouse.
It's pretty funny, actually. They, in my mind, they season their steaks a little too much, but the food, all in all, is very, very good.
Uh-huh. You get a kick out of some of the names? Because I know somebody in Australia, and I've sent her a menu, and she thought
the big porterhouse is still called the Melbourne, right? That's a pretty decent steak. Again, yeah. They do season it a little too much. The bloomin' onion's obviously exactly what it is. It's a blooming onion.
Right.
But the names, they're very Australian, and they do a pretty good job for a Chicago-based corporate American firm.
Right.
Yeah.
Joe, another question from the board, Incher?
Yeah, back to POD. He wants to know what it was like working with Jake Roberts.
Jake was also very, very good. He never took cheap shots or anything like that. Very capable, very, very, very smart wrestler. We worked together several times.
Hmm.
Who came up with the boomerang finisher?
That's something we all sort of worked out there. Let me think. Who was it? I think Arnie Skolland and Chief Jay Strombo thought about it, and we sat down and talked, and that sort of seemed to be the finish.
Yeah. Did they kind of come up with the name first and work out something that would fit that?
No, the boomerang fits exactly. The behind the head clothesline.
Yeah, definitely. What about Frenchie Martin? Someone had asked about him earlier.
Frenchie was a good fellow. He was a friend of mine. I believe he's passed away. Is that true?
I don't know. I don't know if Frenchie Martin's still.
Well, hopefully, I haven't started a vicious rumor that he has.
Right.
He's a good bloke. We worked together a lot, and he again another bloke that never took cheap shots, and we always had fun when we worked. And he took a beating, and I took a beating. It was always good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Was there any more questions from the board, Incher?
POD. He also wants to know what it was like working Ultimate Warrior. How'd you get along with him?
UW was extremely strange.
Right. So just like he was on TV?
Yeah, there was no real difference.
Right. He's making a comeback, I believe, in a few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Really? Oh,
Yeah.
good for him.
Mm-hmm.
He's got to be my age too. And he's probably look. He had a hell of a body then. I'm sure he's in good nick now.
Yeah, he looks pretty good. It's a big show. I think it's in it's either in Italy or Spain.
Wow.
Is there anything you want to tell all your fans out there? You never got a chance to tell them or anything like that?
Obviously, thank you so much for cheering at the appropriate times. It made me feel good, and I certainly hope I didn't let you down at any time. That's the one thing that wrestling does, and people thought I was a bit of a sap for. I always enjoyed the fans. There was never enough time for them because they actually put their bums in the seat and cheered and watched the television shows and made the ratings and made sure you got a paycheck, and that was the reason you were out there. So, you've got to give kudos to the fans.
Mm-hmm. In the chat room here again, they want to know about your match with Iron Mike Sharp from WrestleMania 3.
Iron Mike Sharp. Wait a minute. I loved working with him because you could work as stiff as wrought iron with him, and he would work stiff back, and I mean you could bash the crap out of one another. And it was the whole idea when you work with Iron Mike. If you chopped him across the chest, you'd hit him as hard as you could so the nosebleed seats could hear it, and then he'd chop you back. And the only issue was when with his leather thing he wore on his wrist, if the piece of leather thong came undone, well, at some point it'd eventually work its way and wrap itself around your throat by accident, and he'd half strangle you. But Iron Mike Sharp was a good man.
Mm-hmm. Were you part of the Slammies one year?
Yes.
What were they like? Did you get to sing or anything?
Oh, yeah. We sang Coco Beware did Pile Driver, and we did a thing on stage at the Caesars Palace in Atlantic City, and we were all dressed up as construction crew. And I think I was sitting on some scaffolding, raising and lowering a piece of rope, and wearing a singlet that was way too tight and a yellow hat or something like that, and Coco sung Pile Driver, and then we all got together on the bleachers at the end and sung some song. So yes, I did sing, yes.
But, was there any talks of you doing your own song?
I would have liked to have.
Yeah.
But who knows? I mean, I could have done some fun things with some Australian ditties.
Yeah. Well, maybe sometime in the future we'll get back to you and we can put together the Outback Jack album.
There you go.
We really want to thank you for coming on tonight.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you, 1 Inch, and thank you, Jack.
This is Demolition Smash, and you're listening to In Your Head, and if you don't, I'm going to break your head.